So today we're going to be talking about longevity, teaching, burnout, staying relevant, and what nearly 4 decades in fitness can teach the rest of us. If you're a dance or fitness instructor who wants to grow your classes, boost income, and turn your passion into a real business, you're in the right place. Each week, I'll share the exact strategies, lessons, and truth smacks from building a thriving belly dance fitness brand. We'll dive into what actually fills classes and keeps students coming back so that you can build a profitable instructor career. So, lace up those sneakers and pull on those dance shoes. It's time to build the business you deserve. I'm Orit, and welcome to Dance Fit Biz Builders. Hello, and welcome to Dance Fit Biz Builders. And I am super excited for today. My guest today is a true fitness industry legend. She has been teaching since 1986 and been helping people move, sweat for so many years, nearly 40 years. And she's trained celebrities, educated thousands of instructors, presented all over the world. And somehow she's managed to stay relevant in the industry with all its changes. But what I love most about Keli is that she's never afraid to evolve. She's never afraid to tell the truth and challenge instructors to become better teachers, not just better performers. Welcome, Keli. I'm so happy to have you.
It's great to be here. Thank you so much. I'm excited.
Oh, good. I'm excited too, because we're going to dig in. All right. Keli, so you've worked in this industry, as I stated, for nearly 40 years and with some incredibly high-profile celebrities, yeah? I would love for you to let our audience know, who have you worked with?
Well, probably the biggest profile client I worked with for a number of years was Cher. I did a step video with her, and then she hired me as her personal trainer after that. I was able to make her workouts much more efficient than what she had been doing. So she had taken me on tour briefly to substitute from her regular trainer after I'd done the videos with her. And she was amazed that you could get a full body, complete workout in an hour or less, because she had been training with someone else and he was training her for 2 hours, and she was tired all the time and wasn't feeling her best. So she was probably my highest profile. I mean, it doesn't get much higher profile than Cher. She's like a legend. But I trained Jennifer Jason Leigh, Jennifer Grey, Kirstie Alley, Susan Day from the Partridge Family and L.A. Law, Russell Crowe a couple of times. Who else? Faye Dunaway a couple of times. And then I had a lot of celebrities in my classes as well, because I was teaching at Voight Fitness and Dance in West Hollywood, and there were a lot of celebrities who were showing up. That's how I ended up with celebrity clientele, because I was teaching at a place where celebrities frequented. Right. And they were taking my classes and they wanted more.
Right. Oh, so that was my next question. How did you get these gigs? So you were already in the right place at the right time. So, wow, getting into this club, was it hard? How was the audition process for that?
I auditioned for it, but I also had a great resume, and I was taking classes there, not expecting to work there, but I was taking classes to learn. And they were watching me. And they saw that I moved well, that I had good form, that I looked strong. Then I had a resume. I was certified in Australia and a registered fitness leader in Australia. I'd gone through a certification there, and they saw that I had a solid background. And so, yeah.
Love it.
They hired me.
Love it. Super. Did you felt like you were super lucky that you ended up teaching there, or was it because of your performance skills, your teaching skills? What do you think?
It was a bit of both. You know, I showed up, I was in the right place at the right time, but I was ready. Mm-hmm. I had the credential, I had the skill, I had the preparation, I had worked hard at becoming, a solid instructor. I wasn't just a performer, but I was a solid instructor. If anything, my performance has never been my strong suit.
Really? I think you're a great performer.
Thank
Really?
you.
So you naturally became a great performer because of your teaching.
I think when you're really focused on teaching and you love what you do, your performance is natural.
Makes a lot of sense. And walking into Voight Fitness and teaching these celebrities, did you have an assumption walking in that turned out to be like completely wrong?
Half the time I didn't recognize them because they were showing up with no makeup and,
Okay. I love it.
you know, in ratty, like Lauren Hutton was in my class one day wearing a cast on her foot. She'd broken her ankle in a motorcycle accident.
Ah,
She had a dirty cast on her foot. And I was like, I recognized it because she was, so recognizable.
coaching these celebrities, did this population teach you anything new about like motivation, anything about confidence, anything new?
No, I've learned more about motivation and confidence from teaching older folks.
Elaborate.
I started teaching a class at Breakthrough Fitness in Pasadena, and it was the class that no one else wanted to teach. It was at 9:30 in the morning, and it was all the older retirees and people with injuries and people who were between the age of 50, which I don't think is old, but 50 and 80s. 84 was my oldest participant in that class.
Mm-hmm.
They were mostly in their late 60s and 70s. No one else wanted to. This gym was very high performance. It had a lot of HIIT classes and a lot of really high performance based classes, and no one wanted to teach that class. And I got asked to teach it because the owner of the gym knew I had really good teaching skills and that I'd be able to accommodate people with injuries and special needs.
Mm.
And I started teaching that class and fell in love with working with that population because they are the most motivated people I've ever worked with. They're much more motivated than celebrities.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Because is it because they're working with ailments and they just want to get better?
I think as you get older, if you're already, a, you know, working out, you realize the benefit of it. You realize how it keeps you independent, how it keeps you, it slows down the aging process. And so that I think is very motivating. It certainly is motivating for me. I'm much more motivated to strength train than I ever was. In my 40s, I was like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
strength training. I just like doing cardio. I was
Mm-hmm.
doing a lot of cardio. And in my 20s, I got into bodybuilding in my 30s and I did quite a lot of heavyweight training then, but then moved away from it completely and just did, a lot of cycling and didn't really get into strength training again until I started seeing how important it was for me.
Yeah. I agree with you, Kelly. I'm now in my 50s and I strength train more. And I really love the active aging population. The number one for me is because they're so grateful. They're so grateful that they're there and they're grateful that I am there. And
Yeah.
I'm ecstatic. It fills my heart. Yeah.
Yeah, it fills my heart too, because they,
Yeah.
as you said, they are very grateful. I taught at Equinox for a very long time, for 22 years. And Equinox is a very high end gym. And I taught at Sports Club LA too, which is a very high end gym in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the members who go to gyms like that are not what you would call appreciative. They're very like, I remember years ago, a woman was doing an exercise really incorrectly, really incorrectly. She was gonna hurt herself.
Mm-hmm.
And I went up to her and I said, would you mind if I put my hands on you to do a correction? Because I think you could optimize this exercise if I help you. And she said, don't you touch me. I was like, okay.
I get that.
My older folks who take my classes are like, oh, correct me, show me what I'm doing, make sure I'm doing it right. I want to make sure I'm doing it right. I don't want to hurt myself. I want
Yeah.
they want to be called out. They want you to go, hey, Rose,
Mm-hmm. Right.
lift your chest. pull your shoulders down and back.
Yeah.
They want that.
Yeah. I totally get it, Kelly, because I'm from New York City originally. I lived in Manhattan, and I personal trained a lot to personal in residences, affluent people, and I understand that behavior. So I did teach at a sports club LA in Manhattan in Rockefeller Center,
Oh
and
yeah.
I had a different experience than you. I didn't find that same experience that you did in LA, the LA location. But it's interesting. It's just it runs the gamut. Like you can have any kind of
Yeah.
experience anywhere.
Well, not everyone at Equinox or Sports Club
Hmm.
LA was
No, of course.
rude
Right.
and entitled,
Right.
but but LA Sports Club LA really did attract a lot of that type of
Yeah.
behavior
Agreed.
and
Yeah.
clientele.
Yeah. That's why I love teaching at YMCA's, rec centers, JCCs. I mean, that's my jam right there.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I understand.
yeah. So, Kelly, you've spoken publicly about your own mental health journey. And I was just curious, like looking back, what were some of the warning signs that something needed to change for you?
Well, my warning signs were really blatant, really big. I have had mental illness my whole life. I had my first suicide attempt at the age of 7. I had a second one when I was 11. I had a third one when I was 19.
Mm,
And then I was okay for a while, and then it started happening again
mm,
in my my mid 30s. I started going off the rails again.
mm,
I wasn't till I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder that I was able to get the help I needed and get on medication, because I think bipolar is very hard to diagnose. I was misdiagnosed with depression because I had long cycles
mm,
of depression. And so I was misdiagnosed with depression, and I was put on Prozac, and Prozac made me manic. And I had a really severe suicide attempt
mm,
um, on Prozac. And I still wasn't diagnosed. I wasn't sleeping. I was up at 2 a.m. rearranging furniture and cleaning windows and talking at 100 miles an hour and really angry. And I had to be hospitalized to get to get the right diagnosis, to get the help I needed. So I don't shy away from speaking about mental illness, because a lot of people have a lot of shame are and don't understand it. They think, oh, you just need to be grateful, or oh, you just need to have a better attitude. But you wouldn't tell someone who was diabetic, type 1 diabetic, to have a better attitude and be grateful. I mean, exercise has always been very important to me, because I've always used it to regulate my moods, whether I realized it or not. It still is, one of my great ways of helping me stay balanced.
mm.
Probably more than anything else, that's why I train the way I do, and it helps me stay sane, really.
Yeah.
It's a very powerful tool if you have some kind of mood disturbance.
And that has helped you because the exercise was able to balance you. Then you were able to serve others freely.
Yeah, well, I got into teaching exercise because that's what I wanted to do. I had worked as a model in the early 80s, and I had lived in Milan modeling, and I was a high fashion model, and I was miserable. I hated it. I was bulimic and anorexic, and it was not a profession that was rewarding for me. I quit modeling and went to, I was going to theatre school because I thought I wanted to be an actor. I had been doing some acting in Australia. I'd done a couple of movies and a lot of television. And I thought that that's what I wanted to do. And I started teaching aerobics to put myself through theatre school, and fell in love with fitness. When I was teaching was when I realized that's when I felt the best. That's when I
Mm.
felt the most centered and happy and rewarded and joyful and complete. That's what motivates me today, is that I can see through my own work that I've been able to make a difference in other people's lives. And I think that's why I'm so open about mental health challenges and eating disorders and the things that I've struggled with.
Thank you for being transparent about that. Thank you. And thank you for doing what you do and being vocal about that. You're helping a lot of people. Keli, I'm going to just change the topic a little bit and now go into more teaching.
Mm.
So, since you've been in the industry for decades, right? What do you see today that newer instructors might be missing?
Um, I think it's really important to get a full education, like really understand kinesiology, physiology, biomechanics, to get the knowledge to understand what's behind an exercise. Because I think a lot of younger instructors are very influenced by Instagram, and not so much by Facebook, but probably more by Instagram and TikTok. They see people doing extreme exercises and they think that that is good, and they don't understand the science behind the exercise and the biomechanics behind the exercise and the kinesiology behind the exercise to be able to modify it or regress it so that it would be an appropriate exercise for the people that they're teaching. I think there's a lot of really good high performance. You know, these younger instructors are coming out and they perform so well, you know, they just have so much presence. And I think they've learned that from social media, but it lacks depth. It lacks a true understanding of the science behind the exercise. I think, you know, they're not getting certified. They're not, you know, they're doing 1-day certifications, and that's fine, but you really want to get a solid foundation behind you so you understand
Yeah.
the why, not just the what, but the
Yeah.
why.
Yeah. There's a science to teaching.
Mm.
I, absolutely. So, like when you walk into a room, okay, and as a participant, okay, what tells you within 5 minutes that the instructor truly understands how people learn movement?
Um, First thing I would say is, are they facing the mirror or are they facing the people?
Okay.
I mean, some rooms you do have to face the mirror because it's a small kind of rectangular room, and there's no stage, and it's a narrow room, and you've got people beside you. You really kind of have to face the mirror.
Mhm.
But then I would look at where their eyes are, whether they're watching themselves or really watching how their people are moving.
Mhm.
Because every cue has the potential to land or not land, you know. So whether they're really seeing how people are responding to their coaching or not, whether those cues are just being thrown out there mechanically, or whether there's a depth to that cueing, to that communication, that communication,
Yeah.
whether they're actually responding with their how they're coaching to what they're getting, what they're seeing.
Keli, can you give our audience a difference between a mechanical cue and a cue that has depth?
Well, a mechanical cue might be something like, all right, everyone, we've got 30 seconds. Let's push as hard as you can. Give me 10 more reps. 8, 7, 6. Keep going. 5, 4, 3, 2. Whereas a more in depth way to coach that same exercise might be, all right, you've got 30 seconds. Now, I want you to keep your feet shoulder distance apart, toes pointing straight ahead. As you hinge at the hips, keep your chest lifted. Maintain a braced core and your shoulders are relaxed away from your ear. As you come up from that squat, I want you to exhale deeply. Inhale as you lower. You've got one more rep.
Perfect. Very clear. Thank you for that. Keli, you've been in the industry for 40 years. I've been in it for about 30 plus years. And during that time of teaching, when we first started, the 32 count was it, right? Not teaching to the song structure as it is now, specifically with dance fitness or cardio fitness, right? Do you think formats like Zumba or other styles that teach to this song structure kind of format, are they giving these students too much overload, do you think?
I don't think they are. I think they're very motivating for people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't teach just song structure. Yesterday, I did an online class to a group of elderly folks who were with Silver and Fit, one of the companies I teach for. And I taught to a 32 count. I did 32 count combinations, low impact aerobic combinations. And they loved it. They were very motivated by it, and it was fun, and it worked both sides of the body, and it was good cardiovascular workout. But it wasn't music. When you're teaching online like that, you don't really have the music choices that you have when you're live for a start.
Right.
Because of music laws. So the music tends to be less memorable and less recognizable too.
That's true.
But when you've got a recognizable song that people are familiar with, and something happens in the chorus when the music is really lifting, it's very motivating. And I think Zumba is a great example of using music structure to do a lot of the coaching for you, and it does. I think where people run into trouble is when they're doing indoor cycling. Indoor cycling using purely the music structure really moves away from physiology and good training some of the time. I think you have to, people really get lost in that. And in indoor cycling, we really have to consider the physiology that we're training.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because with formats like Johnny G and other ones, they are very song motivated. Am I correct in that?
Yes and no. Some of them are, some of them aren't. Schwinn and Stages are are a little bit less so. Although Stages, I'm with Stages now. Stages has a music-based course that teaches people how to use music and have it make sense. But a lot of what people are doing doesn't make sense now because they're just going with the song structure. And with the physiology of cardiovascular training, a lot like time under tension is one of the physiology components of getting stronger. Time at intensity is the physiological component of teaching or training the cardiovascular system. You want to spend a certain amount of time at a specific intensity to build that particular training zone. Well, when you've got music that's kind of all over the place and a chorus here and a verse there and a chorus there's much less chance that you're going to train your VO2 max or your tempo or your endurance or spend any significant time at threshold. I think it depends on the goals, but I'm very performance-based when it comes to cycling, and you still have music that drives the energy. For sure, it's not background music, but the physiology is driving the why, not the music.
So I asked you this question because I'm on a mission to help instructors really learn how people can learn effectively. Here's why. I feel like with song structure formats, and I'm talking more specifically dance fitness, I feel
Mhm.
like most of the time the choreography is just regurgitated. I'm going to give you the full move with the direction, with the level, with everything all right off the bat, right out of the
Yeah,
gate, as opposed to when you teach to the 32 count and on the beat, using the beat instead of the structure, you've got that time to break down and build up and repeat and repeat. Instead of chasing, oh shit, the chorus is coming. Sorry, folks, you can't practice that anymore. Now we got to get to the next thing.
yeah.
That's my issue as a teacher.
I understand because I teach like you do. When I teach dance space or low impact fitness, I layer. We start stationary, then we add direction, and then we add arms, and then we add another move in, and then we build it together, and we do a holding pattern of a march. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that allows for a better way for people to learn, for sure. But the dance based music structure type format does pick low hanging fruit in that if you watch the back of the class versus the front of the class, you see two different things. When I used to be a group fitness manager, I wouldn't just look at the front of the class and the instructor. I would watch the back of the class and the participants and see how they were following, whether it was like a game of telephone where further down the line it became something else, or whether it was accurately being followed. Because those music structure classes, the back row tends to get left behind because the front row, it's those visual learners and they're up the front and they can see it. And the people in the back, if they're a visual learner, they're just following the person in front of them and who knows what they're doing.
Right. And especially with visual cueing and not verbal cueing. Like me, Kelly, I'm only 4'10" and a half. I'm not even 5 foot. So for me to keep looking like this is strenuous for me. If I can't hear the cue, screw it. I'm behind because someone's in
Yeah,
front of me and blocking my view.
yeah, yeah.
So I think instructors should take all that into consideration.
Yes, I agree. I think just visual cueing is shortchanging people. I know there are formats out there that only do visual cueing, but I don't agree with that. I think that verbal cueing is so important, so important. Because it not everyone is just purely a visual learner, you know, and a kinesthetic cue, a cue where you're instructing someone how to feel what you want them to do is
Mhm.
so valuable, so valuable.
So, what do you think then has a student coming back year after year? What is it about the instructor?
Different instructors have different appeal. Some people are very charismatic. Some instructors are very charismatic and they have that that automatic appeal where their presence just fills the room and it's easy for them to build a following and have people come from gym to gym to take their classes because they have that special something. But not everyone has that. And I think you can naturally you can build that by being a better instructor, by really teaching, by really coaching, by really having empathy and compassion for the people in the room and understanding what they need and what you might lack in charisma you can make up for in rapport and compassion and warmth and genuineness.
Yeah.
Sometimes I find the people with the most charisma are less sincere
Mm,
in how they connect to people because they've got it for free. They're just charismatic. They fill a room. They don't have to work hard to connect.
yeah. Now, I'd love to talk about burnout. What's one thing instructors are doing today that's making teaching harder for them?
Not taking time for yourself, I think, is a sure way to burn yourself out because I think it's really important to have days off, to have interests outside of teaching, to really make sure that you're getting adequate physical and mental recovery. By that, I mean, a lot of people are teaching with a lot of intensity. HIIT is still really popular. And the problem with HIIT is that it spikes your norepinephrine, your epinephrine, your noradrenaline, adrenaline, your cortisol, and you'll end up with chronically elevated cortisol levels, and you're not going to feel good with elevated cortisol levels because it really it decreases any kind of feeling of euphoria,
Mm,
and it influences how your moods are. You'll overtrain.
yeah,
So making sure that you're getting adequate sleep, nutrition, recovery, that you are taking days off to rest, and also training for yourself, not using your classes purely as your own training,
yeah,
taking the time for self-care and training yourself, and keep learning because you'll never know too much. The more you know you don't know. And
Hmm.
if you keep learning, it keeps you motivated.
Agreed. Good stuff, Kelly. Thank you for that. Yeah. And speaking of burnout, like I know that you teach virtually, which is amazing business move because that's super scalable. Like when did you go virtually because you realized teaching more live classes wasn't necessarily the answer to making more money?
No, I went virtual because I wanted a flexible schedule.
Okay.
Yeah, it was more a question of not being tied to a schedule 5 or 6 days a week.
Mm,
There's a couple of days a week that I have a schedule, and the rest of my week is kind of it flows.
mm.
It moves in and out of work and training people, and I like that.
Do, do you continue to present along with teaching virtually and do having live clients?
I am doing a little presenting. I've got SCW coming up in Dallas, and I'm pretty sure I'm also going to be doing SCW in Midwest. So I'm definitely doing Dallas. I've got that. That's all confirmed. I'm waiting to hear whether I'm doing Midwest as well. So I do a little bit, not as much as not even close to what I used to do, but I don't want to be traveling every weekend. And I don't live close to the airport anymore. So that is one of the big reasons why I don't want to travel the way I used to. A couple of trips a year is plenty.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And are you asked to present or do you
Bit
submit?
of both.
A both?
Bit of
Okay.
both. Bit of both. I'm
Nice.
asked and I submit.
Nice.
Yeah. But there's just not as many opportunities as there used to be. Conventions have really been struggling.
Yeah. Because it's so easy virtually now to learn.
Yeah,
Yeah. Right.
yeah. I mean, I do a lot of online learning myself. I really
Yeah.
love the convenience of being
I
able to
know.
just turn on my computer and
Me
take a
too.
course.
Me too. Yeah. Now, Kelly, how do you stay relevant? What's the secret?
It's hard to stay relevant. I think that is a genuine challenge of anyone who's been in the industry for a long time. I think the most important thing that I have done is to continue my own education. When you continue to learn, when you continue to learn what's happening in the industry, it keeps you relevant.
Now, what about the industry toward us professionals? Do you feel like that it failed us sometimes?
Um, that's a very interesting question. I think in some ways it has, because I think as you get older, a lot of gyms, especially, are looking for the shiny new thing, the young, cute, the young, cute instructor who doesn't care what she's paid or he's paid. I want to be paid for my wisdom. I want to be paid for my education. I've been teaching for 40 years. I should be compensated accordingly, and that makes it harder. There's a certain amount of ageism
Mm-hmm.
in the industry. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, in the online industry, there's some ageism. But I think there's also being able to use your age as your greatest selling point.
Yes.
I'm 65 this year, and I have, I'm strong, I'm fit, I'm muscular, I'm I'm a good example of a 65-year-old.
Yes.
So you can't afford to be average. I think it was Peter Attia said, if you want to be kicking ass when you're 80, you can't afford to be average when you're 60. Well, I think
Yeah.
it's very true. If you want to be relevant, you have to be an exception to the rule. I think it's harder.
Yeah.
And women in menopause, there's a big topic on menopause right now, and training women in menopause and perimenopause. And I think a lot of instructors in menopause are struggling because of the physical changes, many of the physical changes that we can experience through that phase of our life.
Yeah.
It's less forgiving for sure.
Mm-hmm. But I'm glad there's more talk about it.
Yes.
Yeah. 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 So I'm just going to say it. Keli, I feel like the fitness industry has failed us because these certifying bodies are accrediting formats that get instructors certified in a weekend. And that is hard for me because you don't learn the soft skills of teaching. You don't learn the finesse. You don't learn the marketing. You don't learn how to coach. You just learn how to spit out their philosophy.
I think it's the industry, and then it's also a generation that's coming up into the fitness industry that wants instant gratification, that wants to be able to take a weekend course, and I'm an instructor now, and and I teach some of those courses, but I always tell people when I do a weekend personal trainer certification that this is a stepping stone, and that now you're responsible for continuing your education and
Yeah.
really learning more. A lot of, say, dance-based instructors, it's like it's what gets people in. It gets people in the door. It's the gateway drug, and then they start taking indoor cycling classes, and then they start getting fit, and they start doing this format and that format, and they lack any foundational knowledge or education to be a really skilled
Yeah.
professional. Um, but I remember I was teaching a Schwinn indoor cycling certification quite a few years ago, and I had just taught the class, and I said, I was saying, we just did some great anaerobic intervals, and the class that I'm going to teach later on this afternoon has more aerobic work, less anaerobic. Hand shoots up, and it's one of the people in the class who is she's a Zumba instructor. And she was there because she'd fallen in love with indoor cycling and wanted to start coaching it. She said, "What's anaerobic?" And I was like,
Mm.
where do I start? Where do I
Mm.
start? Like, oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
that is you have no right to be teaching if you are asking that question. You
Yeah.
really, you need to go. You need to go and get an education. Like, no, no.
Yeah. So, how do we fix this, Kelly? Because for an industry is all about safety and health, they're doing us a disservice. I mean, we've got to get
Yeah.
to the root of the problem here.
I don't know what the root of the problem is because it's multiple things. It's a generation of instructors coming through who want instant gratification and a large following on Instagram, and they post things wearing bikinis and next to no clothes, and they think that that is what fitness is about, and it's not. It's
Mm-hmm.
not that. That's not what it is.
Yeah. I don't know. Money moved them. Money moved, I don't know, this industry. Whatever, maybe they thought this was easy. We can accredit these formats, gives us money. I don't know.
Yeah.
I hope AFA, NASM, ACE, others are listening.
You know, I'm working with ACE at the moment. I'm doing a job with ACE to write 70 multiple choice exam questions for their certificate, their group fitness certificate. I'm not sure if you're aware, but ACE now has an open book exam certificate for group exercise.
Open book.
Yeah, it's not a certification, they're calling it a certificate.
Okay.
And it doesn't, the exam questions don't go through the rigorous process of development that the certification, the NCAA ranked certifications go through, but it's an open book. They're trying to get people in the door. They're trying to get more people. It's to get the Zumba instructors, the front row of the cycling class,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
to get through the fear of taking an exam that is potentially challenging and technical, but it 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 opens the door a little bit for them to get their foot in the door. And I think it's a good idea. At first, when I read about it, I was like, "Ah, open book exam for ACE? Come on, really?" I studied so hard for that exam.
Me too. And AFA.
Yeah, yeah. At first, it rubbed me the wrong way, but now I see what they're doing. They're getting people in the door. They're building up their confidence to maybe take the certification. If they get the certificate, to take the certification. They don't offer, they're not only offering it for group exercise too. So they really are going after the Zumba instructor, the front row of the cycling class, those people who want to get into teaching class but desperately need an education. So they don't go, "What's anaerobic?"
I'm glad you're helping them out, Kelly. I'm confused about that still.
Yeah. But I think it's good because they still have to read the book.
True. True.
They
That's true.
still have to read the book. The exam questions I wrote were not anything you could get through without having read the book. You would need the knowledge to pass that exam, even if you looked it up. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of those weekend certifications are open book.
Mine was never. And I had a
Oh, no,
practical
no,
exam. I had to teach in front of a
no.
class.
Mhm. Yeah, my ACSM exercise physiology
Yeah.
exam had a practical. They eliminated the practical of that exam now. It's now just written. But when I did that exam, I had to do a staged bike test while listening to someone's blood pressure, while testing blood pressure at all the different stages. I had to demonstrate that I knew how to take a pulse, that I could take blood pressure, that I could run a graded bike test, a VO2 submax test, that I could teach and develop a weight training, a strength training program for certain populations. It was terrifying.
But that's why you're badass now, because of that. And I think it's not our responsibility to build someone's confidence. You know what I mean? If that's just me. I mean, if you want it, you do it. Not everybody gets an award.
No. But I think part of this culture that we're dealing with is that everyone gets a trophy. You know, it's the everyone gets a trophy generation that thinks that just by participating that they deserve a trophy. But I'm glad that I didn't grow up like that. I'm glad that I was taught to compete. I was competitively swimming when I was 6 years old. I was an athlete all through school, and I'm glad that I got to lose. I'm glad that I got to train hard in order to win.
Yep.
Because it gave me a work ethic.
Yeah. I don't know. We shall see. And I'm glad it's you doing it and you helping them, you know? That's great. So, Keli, if you could sit with a fitness instructor right now, someone listening right now, and tell them one thing that they could do to improve their classes immediately, one actionable step, what would that be?
A great question. I would say watch your people. Watch your people, because then you'll know if your cues are landing, if how you're communicating is successful. When you communicate with someone in a conversation, when they respond to you by saying something, you know that it's been understood what you said and there's a response that you expect. Well, the response we expect when we teach is how people move. Mm-hmm. So watch how people move, because it informs you so much. Like in your warm-up, I always have a plan when I walk into a room. I have a class plan that I'm going to execute. I don't walk in wing it productions. Mm-hmm. I have a plan. But in my warm-up, I might have to change that plan. I might have to adapt that plan. I might have to adjust that plan to accommodate who's in front of me. And I can adjust that by watching. Watch your people, because you're going to learn about what to cue, what to cue. Because if someone's squatting and their knees are dropping in, or they're pronating, or they're hyperextending, they're rounding their back, whatever it is they're doing wrong is going to give you the cues that you need. You're not just going by habit, you're responding to what you see.
That's the assessment for the rest of the class. And you may have to change things right on the fly. If you're a seasoned instructor, that's easy. Mm-hmm. Amazing. Yep. Love that. Love that. Warm-ups are important. Watch your students. You are badass. It was so thrilling to talk to you. Thank you so much. And I would love for you to take us out with our signature outro.
All right, folks, until next time, go and kick some serious ass. Go for it.
I love that. Thank you, Keli.
Oh, my pleasure.